want to get into Insecure, right? The show, HBO show by Issa Rae.
Big fan.
That is a classic.
I watch Insecure at least 4 times a year.
Now me,
no lie,
I found it.
The whole series.
You said what?
I watched the whole series at least 3 to 4 times a year.
Now me, I mean, after the show came out, what am I saying? I was watching it live, like when the episodes was coming out. I haven't watched it since then. So whatever age I was when that season came out, that's the last time I saw it. Okay. I have more like 3 episodes that are my favorite that I religiously go back to. Like, oh, I'm in the mood for that. But watch it beginning to end. This is my first time, right? I'm like halfway through it, right?
And so how old were you when you started watching it?
I was like 16, 17-ish, 16 going on 17.
Almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, crazy. And now that frontal lobing, I'm realizing things. And I'm just like, my views is just so different. It's so crazy circling back and going back to things you haven't looked at, listened to, watched in years, and being like, whoa, like my opinion was just so what? You know what I mean?
I could totally relate. Even though I've watched the show many times, I feel like after my frontal lobe developed, I had a whole new perspective on almost every single character.
Yeah, literally.
Like, and especially Issa.
Especially Issa. Now.
And Molly.
All of them. But I feel like my opinion on Lawrence is kind of still the same.
Absolutely.
It's basically the same. Yeah. But I want to get into that. Now, on the friendship side, I don't know. The majority, the people who my peers around me around that time that was also watching the show with me agreed. About that time, Molly, we was like, oh, Molly's not a good friend. Molly. I was like, I can't stand this bitch. And we was like, no, Issa's the friend. But now watching it, I'm like, Issa ain't. She is judgy. She is
Issa was everything she accused Molly of being. She was the same thing.
She wasn't dependable. You know what I'm saying? She was like very male centered, just off the chain.
Extremely.
Could not center herself and just chill out. Like, I'm realizing that after Lawrence, there was no. Not only is she in a way was repeatedly putting men before her friend, which is just like what, but on top of that, there was no solitude. There was no moment where it's like, I was with this man, and physically, mentally, emotionally, physically, all the above. I was with this man for 5 years. I need to touch some grass, you know, and be on my own for a second. No, it was like, oh, I need the next one, and I'm like, she just don't sit down. Like, she just couldn't stop. And she's still wilding out. Where I'm at, she's still off the chain, losing her marbles. And it's just like, that is so insane to me, because I didn't even think about that when I was watching it the first time. I was just like, yeah, like, do your thing, like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, oh, Molly, she a bad friend. But what about you?
Definitely in the mind frame. And I had definitely, because, well, I didn't watch it as it was airing. I didn't watch Insecure until 2021. And I think, like, already 4 seasons had come. Right. And I binge watched it, and I loved the show. And then I was waiting for season 5. Season 5 was good. Hated how it was rushed at the end, but I guess it is what it is. But I was really of the belief that Molly was a horrible friend. And Issa really treated her like that. Issa took no accountability in any way that she acted towards Molly in that show. Now, I will say, towards like season 4, into season 3, season 4, Molly's, I think it seemed like she was having a hard time in her life. And everybody around her was getting the brunt of it. And I feel like, in the early season, Molly extended so much grace, and she was there so much for Issa. The fact that Issa couldn't respect her boundaries or be there for her just as much as she had been there for her was mind-blowing. Yeah. And the way that she framed herself as a victim, because Molly wasn't being everything that she wanted her to be or expected her to be. Granted, Molly did do some things that was like...
Yeah, because Molly not, in the clear.
But in the earlier seasons, Molly was really there for
for her.
Issa. Like,
and especially with her occupation, she would be like,
yes.
yeah, what you need? Okay, I'll be there. I'll try to be there. You know what I'm saying? I'll try to wrap up early. All kind of. And it was almost like Issa was kind of very much entitled to that.
Very much entitled. And that's what happens. And that's what can happen when you're giving to someone. They start to feel like, you know, they're entitled to it. So they don't see it as like a kindness or a something you're extending to them.
Yeah. So in this point in the show where Molly, you know, life is lifing, maybe that on top of Issa just take. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, you know, you want to be happy for your girl, you know, leveling up, doing things, but now it's like, and
everybody, and I remember thinking, like, Molly was so judgy. She was not judgy. I think Molly was very clear of the type of man that she wanted, and I think sometimes she let I think she let other people's judgment of her standards, and also her not wanting to be like angry black woman interfere with what she knew she wanted, and then it would put her in weird situations where she's not really happy, but she's trying to make something work, and it just didn't make sense. She was judgy. Molly was judgy, but I think
it was more of a
Issa was just as judgy.
But she would be on some like, girl, I know you're not, but Molly wasn't doing that.
Every time Molly stated a standard that she had or something that she wanted, she was always met with,
it's not that deep.
Oh, you doing too much. Oh, you just want to complain. Making her feel bad for
you like that.
Making her feel bad for having standards, and like it's crazy to rewatch.
Like, it's not that deep, and it's like, but it's that deep to me. That's my standard. You know what I'm saying? Don't try to water down my standards. But then also, even though Molly was going through what she was going through, when the girls wasn't supportive and laughing at Issa about her you know, her idea, that's funny.
Yeah, I don't that was like strange. That. Like, they was just, I think they really had, I think they had Issa like pegged as like the fuck up friend. Like yeah, she's always doing this and that. Like, she's never really like solidified or super successful. Like, they had put her in that box, and like, I don't think they expected her to do anything more.
That's really messed up, because it was
messed up.
I don't know, I feel like if we, you know, had a third, you know what I'm saying, that was the Issa Rae, you know, we would be happy to hear like, oh yes, like, you know, it happens when it's supposed to, supportive, like, you need help, you know, let's, you know what I'm saying? They were not on no supportive. It was just like, girl, shut up. Like,
it was very dismissive and discouraging. And I think if Issa didn't have Nathan, she wouldn't have done it. Yeah, she wouldn't have gone through with it, because it was like nobody around her believed in her. It was crazy. Yeah, that was really wild.
And Condola too, even though that got messy.
Yeah, Condola was cool.
She definitely helped until it wasn't.
Yeah, it was cool until it wasn't.
The words of K-Line, it was good until it wasn't.
Yeah.
But yes,
it's crazy what you notice. The older you get, the more your brain develops, and you acquire experiences, how you can have a totally different perspective.
I'm mind blown. Like,
on a show.
I'm stunned, and it almost makes me want to watch all my faves that I was watching 10 years ago, 8 years ago. Even music I listened to, I'm like, what? Yeah. Go watch those things and listen to that music. Yeah, and you might learn a thing or two about yourself, about life, all the above. But yes.